Gentlemen, why is it that some men, without even lifting a finger, and effortlessly attract women, hold their attention and walk away whenever they please, only for the women to come chasing after them? It's not luck, it's not looks, and it damn sure isn't money. It's power, and today I'm going to break down exactly how these so-called playboys gain power over women, without ever chasing them. Gentlemen, why is it that some men, without even lifting a finger, and effortlessly attract women, hold their attention and walk away whenever they please, only for the women to come chasing after them? It's not luck, it's not looks, and it damn sure isn't money. It's power, and today I'm going to break down exactly how these so-called playboys gain power over women, without ever chasing them. The power of detachment is one of the most misunderstood yet most effective traits a man can develop when it comes to gaining influence, not only over women but over life itself. In a world where emotional reactivity is the norm, detachment stands out like a flame in the dark. When a man is detached, he's not cold. He's not emotionless. He simply refuses to let his sense of worth be dictated by how someone else feels about him in the moment. And this trait, whether consciously or subconsciously, is profoundly attractive. Most men operate from a place of need. They meet a woman they're attracted to, and immediately they begin calculating how to win her over. They adjust their words, they tailor their actions. They start investing emotionally long before she's earned it. This approach gives the woman all the power. She becomes the prize and he becomes the pursuer. But detachment flips that dynamic entirely. When a man is detached, he doesn't need to play games. He's not acting. He's simply grounded in himself. He knows that no matter how beautiful or charming she is, he's not going to compromise who he is to gain her attention or affection. This type of man doesn't chase because he doesn't feel the need to. His emotional center is internal, not external. That means if she texts him back, cool. If she doesn't, that's fine too. If she flirts with other guys to try and provoke a reaction, he won't bite. He'll watch. He'll observe. And if it doesn't align with his standards, he'll walk away. Not out of spite. Not to manipulate, but because he knows his energy is sacred, and he won't waste it on someone who doesn't value it. Women are extremely intuitive when it comes to emotional energy. They can tell when a man is seeking approval. They can feel when a man is emotionally overinvested, and the more they sense that energy, the less attracted they become. It's counterintuitive, but the less you need her, the more she desires you, because neediness creates pressure, and pressure repels. Detachment, on the other hand, creates space. Space allows curiosity to grow, and curiosity leads to desire. A detached man doesn't have to say much. His presence does the talking. He's calm, he's collected. He doesn't respond instantly to every message. Not because he's playing hard to get, but because he's genuinely busy living his life. His schedule is full, not of distractions, but of purpose. His gym time, his work, his reading, his mission, all of that comes first. When he makes time for a woman, it's because he wants to, not because he's desperate to fill a void. That emotional independence is magnetic. It shows a level of self-respect that demands respect in return. It communicates, I don't need you to complete me, I'm already whole. And that energy makes her want to be part of your world. Not because you begged her in, not because you chased her down, but because you didn't. Detachment is not apathy, it's discipline. It's the ability to feel deeply but choose wisely. It's knowing when to engage and when to step back. It's the strength to walk away, not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your own peace to entertain anything less than alignment. Most men fear detachment because they believe it will make them lonely. But what they don't realize is that clinging to the wrong energy is far lonelier. When you detach, you filter out the noise. You stop wasting time on people who don't match your frequency, and slowly the right ones start appearing. Not because you were chasing them, but because you were becoming the kind of man they're drawn to. This energy changes everything. Conversations become smoother. Interactions carry a subtle tension. She starts wondering why you're so composed, so unmoved, so unbothered. And in that wondering, attraction builds. She starts chasing your validation. She tries to prove herself worthy of your time, not because you asked her to, but because you didn't. When you master detachment, you become dangerous in the best way. You're no longer controlled by your desires. You can walk into any situation knowing you'll be fine regardless of the outcome. You stop playing from behind. You're not waiting for her to decide if she likes you. You're observing whether she aligns with your values, and if she doesn't, you don't fight it. You don't explain. You don't convince. You simply exit. That kind of power can't be faked. It can't be mimicked. It comes from real inner work, from solitude, from failures, from realizing your peace is too valuable to hand over to someone who hasn't earned it. And once you get to that level, everything changes. You'll stop chasing because what you want starts chasing you. Unapologetic confidence is not about being arrogant, loud, or boastful. It's a quiet, calm, and deeply rooted self-belief that doesn't waver based on who's in the room. It's the type of confidence that doesn't need to be validated by anyone else, least of all by a woman's approval. This kind of confidence is magnetic because it radiates certainty. And in a world full of men who constantly question themselves, overthink every move, and look around for permission before they act, a man with unapologetic confidence becomes the rarest breed. Women are naturally drawn to strength, not just physical strength, but emotional and psychological strength. They can sense it instantly, the way a man walks, the way he speaks, the way he looks at them. A confident man doesn't shrink in the presence of beauty. He doesn't pedestalize a woman simply because she's attractive. He knows his value. He understands that her beauty is just one aspect, and that his energy, his direction, his presence brings something just as valuable to the table. When a man carries himself with unapologetic confidence, he doesn't ask for acceptance. He assumes it. He enters a room like he belongs there because in his mind he always does. He doesn't second, guess his words or worry about whether he said the right thing. He speaks with intention. He listens with focus. And when he looks a woman in the eyes, he doesn't flinch or fidget. That direct, unwavering eye contact says more than words ever could. It says, "I see you, but I'm not afraid of you." Most men crumble under pressure when they talk to a woman they're attracted to. They start overthinking, trying to say the perfect thing, trying to avoid saying the wrong thing. But confidence isn't about perfection. It's about presence. A confident man isn't trying to be someone else. He's fully himself, flaws and all, and that authenticity, that raw honesty, is incredibly attractive, because women don't want a man who's trying to fit in. They want a man who stands out by standing firm. This kind of confidence isn't developed overnight. It comes from experience, from doing hard things, from taking risks and surviving rejection, from putting yourself in uncomfortable situations over and over until they stop shaking you. Every time a man chooses to act in spite of fear, his confidence grows. Every time he speaks his mind without worrying about the reaction, he sharpens that edge. And over time, he becomes unshakable. There's also a powerful psychological effect that confidence has on others. People mirror the energy they're given. If you act like you're unsure of yourself, the world reflects that back to you. But if you move with conviction, people start to follow your lead. Women, especially, are highly attuned to emotional cues. They notice the tone of your voice, the way you hold your body, the timing of your pauses. A man who knows his worth doesn't rush to fill silence. He allows space. He controls the pace, and she feels that. This confidence extends to boundaries. A man with unapologetic confidence is not afraid to say no. He's not worried about being liked all the time. He's not available at every hour. He doesn't tolerate disrespect, and he doesn't chase when someone pulls away. He doesn't have to yell or make threats. His energy says it all. I don't need you to like me. I like me. That mindset is not only rare, it's irresistible. A confident man can tease without being afraid of offending. He can compliment without expecting anything in return. He can walk away from someone he desires if they no longer align with his values. And he does all of this with peace, not bitterness. That peace comes from knowing he brings value wherever he goes, not because someone told him so, but because he's earned it, seen it, and felt it. Confidence doesn't mean he gets every woman. It means he never loses himself trying. True confidence doesn't get jealous. It doesn't compete. It doesn't compare. It focuses inward, knowing that as long as he continues to grow, build, and evolve, the right energy will always be drawn to him. He doesn't act out of desperation, because desperation is the death of attraction. He acts out of assurance. That assurance speaks volumes, even in silence. When you see a man who seems to have women naturally gravitate toward him, understand it's not just what he says, it's how he carries himself. It's how he breathes, how he reacts, or rather how he doesn't overreact. That's the mark of a man who's not chasing approval. That's the presence of unapologetic confidence. Now, emotional control is where the Playboys' power deepens. It's not just about looking calm, it's about being calm. It's about maintaining internal balance regardless of what's happening externally. This is the battlefield where most men fall. When a woman pulls away, ignores a message, tests his patience, or tries to trigger insecurity, most men respond emotionally. They start asking questions. They get angry. They over-explain. They start chasing to regain control. And the moment they do, they lose it. A man with emotional control never gives away his center. He understands that emotions are like waves, temporary, intense, and always moving. He doesn't try to fight the wave, and he doesn't get swept away by it. He lets it pass, whether it's anger, jealousy, sadness, or desire. He lets himself feel it, but he doesn't react from it. That's the key difference. Weak men react. Strong men respond. Women test men emotionally all the time. Sometimes it's subconscious. Sometimes it's deliberate. She'll push your buttons, say things that get under your skin, pull back just to see what you'll do. She wants to know, can you handle her, not just when she's sweet, but when she's chaotic. And the man who stays grounded in the storm becomes the anchor. Emotional control isn't about ignoring emotions. It's about choosing the response. That self-restraint, that ability to pause, breathe, and act from a place of clarity instead of impulse, that's what separates the man who chases from the man who attracts. This doesn't mean you don't feel. On the contrary, emotionally controlled men feel everything. They just don't broadcast it or let it dictate their behavior. They don't post cryptic messages. They don't lash out or become passive-aggressive. If something needs to be said, they say it clearly and directly. If something needs to be walked away from, they do it without drama. That clarity makes a woman feel both safe and intrigued, because she knows he won't be manipulated. She knows he's not easily thrown off course. Emotional control also extends to patience. A lot of men ruin situations because they're too eager. They want instant responses, instant validation, instant progress. But the man in control moves at his own pace. He doesn't rush because he's not afraid of losing anything. He knows that if she's meant to be part of his life, she will be, and if not, he's prepared to continue without her. That patience is a reflection of his self-trust. It's not just that he believes in her, it's that he believes in himself more. This trait is also seen in how a man deals with conflict. When disagreements arise, the average man either avoids them entirely or becomes defensive and aggressive. The emotionally grounded man, however, stays calm. He listens, he speaks when needed, and he doesn't escalate. That composure shifts the dynamic completely. Instead of reacting with ego, he responds with presence. He turns tension into connection, and the woman feels that leadership on a primal level. Over time, emotional control becomes your greatest weapon, not just in relationships, but in life. It allows you to see situations clearly, to make decisions that align with your values, to walk away from what doesn't serve you without regret. It makes you unpredictable in the best way. No one can manipulate you. No one can trigger you. You're free because your peace doesn't depend on how others act. It's built from within. Selective availability is a psychological magnet. It flips the script of what most men do, and it forces women to recalibrate how they see a man's time, energy, and presence. The truth is, anything that's always accessible loses its value. When a man is constantly texting, calling, responding instantly, and making himself available at every opportunity, he sends a loud, subconscious message. My time isn't in high demand. And whether he realizes it or not, that perception chips away at a woman's desire. On the other hand, a man who is selectively available communicates, without saying a word, that his life is full, his mission is consuming, and his time is sacred. That energy is rare, and women feel it immediately. Selective availability creates scarcity. Scarcity breeds value. It's the same principle that drives luxury brands. If you could walk into any store and grab a high-end item off the shelf whenever you wanted, it wouldn't hold the same weight. But when something is hard to access, when it's only offered under certain conditions, or when it takes time and effort to attain, it becomes desirable. The same applies to human attention. When a man doesn't offer himself up freely, when he doesn't show up every time she calls, when he doesn't make plans just because she's free, he becomes something to earn. He becomes a reward, not a given. This doesn't mean playing games or acting distant for the sake of manipulation. It means genuinely living a life that requires your focus, discipline, and commitment. A man who is selectively available isn't pretending to be busy. He is busy. He's building something. He's working on himself. He's choosing where and how to invest his time, because he understands that time is his most valuable currency. And when a woman sees that she can't just have his attention whenever she wants, it forces her to assess her own value in the interaction. She begins to chase, to wonder, to invest more, because she knows he's not going to give his energy away just because she's beautiful or interested. This availability also affects the quality of your presence. When you do show up, when you do text back, when you do make time, it means something. It has weight. She feels that this wasn't casual, this was intentional. And intention creates meaning. Instead of blending in with the rest of the men who flood her messages and flood her life with availability, you stand apart. Your time becomes a privilege, and that privilege must be earned. Another effect of selective availability is that it trains her to wait. It conditions her to be patient. In a world where instant gratification is the norm, making someone wait changes the dynamic. If she wants to see you, she may have to plan ahead. If she wants a reply, she may need to sit with uncertainty. That uncertainty builds tension, and tension is the birthplace of obsession. It keeps you in her mind longer. It makes her replay conversations, wonder where she stands, and invest more of her energy in the space you create by not always being present. Selective availability also sets a precedent for respect. A man who's always available is often treated like a backup plan, an emotional support line, or a source of entertainment. But a man who respects his time trains others to respect it as well. He's not rude, he's just not reactive. He doesn't answer every call, he doesn't respond to every emotional shift. He doesn't drop everything for a last-minute plan. That stability is what creates contrast, and in that contrast, a woman begins to value him more. There's also a psychological effect that kicks in when someone is occasionally but not always available. It's called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that slot machines use. You don't win every time, but every now and then you do. And that occasional reward keeps people hooked. It keeps them coming back. When your presence is felt in measured doses, when you give just enough to keep her interested, but not enough to make her feel in control, she becomes addicted to the possibility of your attention. The key is authenticity. This only works if your selective availability is real. If you're sitting around doing nothing and just ignoring her to play a role, she'll sense the falseness. But if you're truly invested in your mission, if you're choosing to prioritize your life, your goals, your peace, and your time, then every interaction you give her feels like a decision, not a default. And that changes everything. This also leads into how you set standards. Because once your time is scarce, it's no longer about whether she likes you. It's about whether you see value in giving her access. That subtle shift in perspective places you in the position of power. You become the chooser, not the chosen. She's no longer in control of how things evolve. You are. Because she knows if she loses your attention, she can't get it back easily. And that fear of loss becomes a powerful motivator. Lastly, selective availability creates an air of maturity. Immature men are desperate to be seen, heard, and validated. They chase validation through constant contact, instant replies, and emotional dependency. But the man who is grounded, who is focused, who understands the power of his presence, he moves differently. He's not in a rush. He's not chasing. He's not reacting. He's choosing. And in that choice, he becomes the man she can't stop thinking about, even when he's nowhere to be found. Playboys who possess true influence over women understand the immense value of cultivating an emotionally detached mindset. This doesn't mean being cold, heartless, or indifferent to others. Rather, it means having such a strong grasp over your own emotional world that you're never at the mercy of someone else's mood, affection, or attention. Emotional detachment is not about withdrawal. It's about sovereignty. It's about building a psychological fortress within yourself that protects your peace, regardless of what happens externally. This trait is magnetic to women. especially in a culture where emotional chaos and insecurity are the norm. When a man is emotionally detached, he doesn't crumble under pressure. He doesn't beg for validation. He doesn't panic when a woman pulls away or plays games. He doesn't chase after breadcrumbs of affection. He observes, he remains still, and because his identity isn't tied to how she feels about him at any given moment, he keeps his power. Most men lose this power the moment they get emotionally involved. They become reactive. They start overthinking. They compromise their standards just to maintain a sense of connection. But the detached man, he's immune to that. His strength lies in his ability to feel without being consumed. This mindset stems from a deeper understanding of human nature. A man who has studied female psychology knows that emotions are fluid, ever-changing, and often disconnected from logic. He doesn't expect consistency from others. He creates it within himself. When she pulls back, he doesn't panic. When she tests him, he doesn't overreact. When she gets emotional, he doesn't get swept up. Instead, he remains the eye of the storm, calm, grounded, and completely unmoved. That kind of presence is rare, and women are drawn to it instinctively. It makes them feel safe, not because he's emotionally expressive, but because he's emotionally stable. Emotional detachment also means he's never afraid to walk away. This is one of the most attractive qualities a man can have. The man who is willing to walk away has all the leverage. He doesn't tolerate disrespect. He doesn't beg for love. He doesn't fear loss. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. It means he cares more about his own integrity than about forcing a connection, and that quiet confidence, that unwavering self-respect, triggers a deep psychological attraction in women. They know he's not like the rest. They know they can't manipulate him with drama or distance, and that creates an environment where they naturally give more, because they don't want to lose a man who refuses to chase. Another powerful aspect of emotional detachment is control over impulse. Most men react instantly to feminine behavior. If she texts, they respond immediately. If she withdraws, they panic. If she flirts, they fall in love. But the emotionally detached man pauses. He analyzes. He gives himself space to choose a response based on his values, not his hormones. That pause is power. That space between stimulus and response is where masculine leadership lives. A woman feels that difference. She senses that she can't control him with her emotions. She can't drag him into emotional warfare, and that makes her respect him on a subconscious level. This type of detachment also creates emotional clarity. The man is able to see things for what they are, not through the lens of desperation, fantasy, or insecurity, but through the lens of truth. If a woman is inconsistent, disrespectful, or emotionally manipulative, he doesn't justify it. He doesn't cling to potential. He doesn't create illusions about who she could be. He sees what is, and he decides accordingly. That clarity allows him to avoid the traps that most men fall into, chasing emotionally unavailable women, tolerating toxic behavior, and losing themselves in unhealthy attachments. And perhaps most importantly, emotional detachment allows a man to stay focused on his mission. A man who is constantly emotionally entangled with women cannot build anything of value. His energy is fragmented, his focus is stolen. But a man who keeps women in their proper place in his hierarchy, below his mission, not above it, operates from a place of discipline. He's not emotionally starved. He's not seeking constant affirmation. He's building something that fulfills him on a deeper level, and that fulfillment is what makes him deeply attractive. He doesn't need her to complete him. He's already whole. That wholeness is what draws her in. And while most men are falling apart over a woman's silence, a delayed reply, or a shift in tone, the emotionally detached man continues to move forward. He works. He trains, he creates, he lives with purpose. He's not available for emotional games because he's too busy mastering himself. And that level of composure, discipline, and emotional sovereignty is what makes him unforgettable. It's not that he doesn't feel, he just refuses to be ruled by his feelings. He remains the master of his world, and that quiet, unshakable strength is something a woman will feel in her soul, long before she ever understands it in her mind. Playboys who master influence over women without ever chasing understand one vital law. Female validation means nothing if you haven't first validated yourself. They don't live or die by a compliment, a look, a reply, or a night of intimacy. They operate from a place of deep internal validation, where their worth is established, reinforced, and protected by themselves. This is a rare energy. Most men in today's world are chasing approval from women because they've never taken the time to define themselves without it. But the man who truly doesn't need her validation to feel valuable, he stands out in every room he enters, and that standing out is never loud. It's silent, calm, and undeniable. Self-validation is power because it cannot be taken away. If your sense of self is based on whether she texts back, whether she says you're attractive, whether she wants to sleep with you, or whether she chooses you over other men, you've already lost the game. You've given away the keys to your self-worth. But a man who wakes up in the morning and already knows who he is, who doesn't need to check his phone for confirmation, who isn't scrolling for likes or waiting on attention, he walks differently. His posture, his eyes, his energy all say one thing: I approve of myself with or without you. And that is intoxicating to a woman. This kind of man doesn't shrink himself when he's around a beautiful woman. He doesn't overcompensate. He doesn't exaggerate his achievements. He doesn't put on a performance. He's already secure. His sense of identity isn't reactive to her presence. She doesn't become the mirror through which he sees his own value. Instead, she becomes just another person. No pedestal, no worship, no desperation. And because he doesn't need her to see him a certain way, he becomes free to be completely himself. That authenticity is magnetic because it's rare. Women are surrounded by men who are constantly trying to impress them, prove themselves, or win their attention, but the self-validated man doesn't try. He just is asterisk. When a man is rooted in his own self-approval, he sets the standard for how others treat him. He's not looking for cues from the outside world. He's not testing the waters to see if he's good enough. He knows what he offers. He's already done the internal work. He's already spent the time alone, in silence, developing himself, sharpening his mind, strengthening his body, building his value. And because he's poured into himself so deeply, he no longer approaches women from a place of lack. He approaches from a place of fullness. That fullness changes everything. He doesn't over-pursue because he knows that chasing implies neediness. He doesn't become emotionally unstable if she loses interest, because his interest in himself never wavers. He doesn't get jealous of other men, because he sees no competition when his value is rooted in what he's built, not how others respond to him. This inner validation also protects him from manipulation. He's immune to women who try to bait him with withdrawal, who test his ego with silence, who dangle attention like a reward. None of that works on a man who already approves of himself, who already feels complete. He simply won't play that game because his emotional economy doesn't run on someone else's affection. Another key aspect of self-validation is the ability to be honest with yourself and with others. When you don't need to impress anyone, you can speak plainly. You don't need to say what she wants to hear. You say what's true. You draw boundaries. You say no. You stand firm in your values, and women respect that. They may not say it out loud, but deep down they trust the man who doesn't fold, who doesn't fake charm, who doesn't become what they want just to win their affection. That integrity creates trust. It creates attraction. And more than that, it creates lasting influence. The self-validated man is also patient. Because he's not in a rush to prove anything, he lets things unfold naturally. He's not pushing for attention. He's not begging for a date. He's not measuring his worth by how quickly a woman responds. That patience is rooted in abundance. He knows what he brings to the table, and because of that, he's not afraid to walk away if he's not met with the same level of energy. And the paradox is this: the less he tries to impress, the more impressive he becomes. The less he seeks attention, the more attention he gets, because he's not performing. He's radiating something deeper: certainty, confidence, wholeness. Self-validation also makes him immune to rejection. Rejection doesn't sting when you're self-worth isn't on the line. It's not personal. It's simply misalignment. The self-validated man doesn't spiral if a woman isn't interested. He doesn't internalize it. He doesn't ask, "What's wrong with me?" He moves forward because he already knows his value. He understands that not every woman will see it, and that's okay. He doesn't need to be chosen by everyone. He only needs to be chosen by someone who sees what he already knows to be true. And in the end, that's what makes this man so powerful. He's not chasing a feeling. He's not chasing status. He's not chasing love. He's not even chasing women. He's chasing mastery of self, of purpose, of discipline. And because his validation is internal, everything he does stems from a place of power. He's grounded, he's focused, and he's free. Free from needing to prove himself, free from emotional chaos, free from the highs and lows of external approval, and in that freedom he becomes the kind of man who doesn't chase, because he knows the right things always align with him, not the other way around. So in the end, the playboy who truly holds power isn't the one with the flashiest game, the smoothest lines, or the most attention from women. It's the man who refuses to chase because he has already chosen himself. He doesn't seek validation, he carries it. He doesn't beg for connection, he attracts it. He operates from stillness, not scarcity, from grounded self-respect, not emotional chaos. And because he lives in that rare space of inner mastery, women can't help but be drawn to him, not because he tries to win them over, but because he never needed to.